Welcome to Business 101 class. Today, you will look at Session 4, Visualization Factors Precisely Undue Influence. Session Objectives. By the end of this session, you should be able to explain undue influence, to understand the evidential burden of undue influence, distinguish between presumed undue influence and actual undue influence, to understand the difference relationship under presumed undue influence, and to understand and able to apply the burden in the various scenarios. Now let's discuss. Undue influence is an equitable defense which involves one person taking advantage of a position of power over another. This inequality in power between the parties can vitiate one party's concern as they are unable to freely exercise their independent will. So you are saying that undue influence is an equitable remedy. It means that it is at the discretion of the court to grant or not to grant. Now, you definitely see this when one person occupies a high position, trying to use the position to take advantage over the other party in terms of contracts. Here you will see that the second party to a contract has not entered a contract because he wants to do so, but because he couldn't or she couldn't exercise independent judgment because of the other person's position, the fear of doing something to harm him or her. Now, if you understand from the case of Mercer v. Brimpon that undue influence means any influence by which the exercise of free will or independent judgment is excluded at a time when some interest or benefit is given to another by someone over which influence was exercised. So once you are exercising judgment in terms of you are entering into a contract, you're not able to exercise free or deliberate judgment, independent judgment, because of the other party's position. Then we say that there has been an undue influence. Remember, undue influence makes contract voidable, not void. Now, as I said, undue influence makes contract voidable, and it entitles the innocent party to sue for rescission, that rescind the contract. But rescission should be done within a reasonable time. The two categories of undue influence include the presumed undue influence and the actual undue influence. Let's discuss them one by one. Now, undue influence is by operation of the law, where we have subsistent trusts. Like we have trusts whereby the settlor vests a property in the hands of the trustee for the benefit of the beneficiary. Where there's subsistent confidential nature or there's a fiduciary relationship between the parties, with one party being dominant. So there should be a dominant party. There should be a dominant party and a servant party. Dominant and servant party. One at a position of influence, one at a position of a servant. Now, a typical example include government and citizens. The government automatically being the dominant and the citizen will be the servant. Parents and child. The parent occupy the dominant and the other one for the child for a servant or guardian. We have religious advisors and members of the church, congregation and the church leaders, solicitor and client. All this creates a position of trust or fiduciary. They are in a position of fiduciary relation. And here the law presumes that there's undue influence. So when a client enters into a contract with a solicitor or a lawyer, the client will not be able to exercise good judgment because the solicitor or the lawyer is acting on his or her behalf. The same thing, doctor-patient. When it comes to doctor-patient, maybe you are sick and the doctor wants to buy something from you. You will not be able to exercise a good judgment, or you will not act in your own free will. Now, if so, in that instance, you presume that there's an instance of undue influence. However, the dominant party can show that indeed he didn't allow his dominant position to supersede or prevail in that contract, and that the servant party got a chance to analyze the situation and came out free to enter into a contract. The court will not avoid that contract. The court will not infer the undue or the presumed undue influence. So it means that such contract, if the dominant party is able to prove, then the contract will not be set aside on grounds of undue presumed influence or presumed undue influence. Now we also have actual undue influence. Here, there is no presumption of undue influence. However, we can see evidence of imbalance of powers. You could see that clearly there's something wrong, or there's imbalance of power and one party has taken advantage of it. when the person is suffering from old age or mental disability or capacity, or the person is suffering from literacy, then the court would indeed presume that indeed there was a clear actual undue influence. Section summary. Undue influence exists where contract has been entered as a result of pressure. Undue influence is divided into actual undue influence and presumed undue influence. You should also understand that where a contract is found to be entered into as a result of an undue influence, this will render the contract voidable. As I explained, a voidable means that it can be set aside, but it should be done within a reasonable time. In addition, in some instances, the party influence may also be able to have a contract set aside against a party whom was not the person inflicting the undue pressure. Thank you and have a wonderful day.